All good things must come to an end, they say. And in 9 days' time, something very good indeed is coming to an end. Because a week on Monday, a man is going to come and knock on my door and ask to have the keys back to my Genesis Electrified GV70, a car that I've spent the last 6 months and 3,500 miles with as my daily driver. And it will be a very, very sad day indeed. So what fitting way to say farewell to a car that I really have grown to absolutely love than to bring it on the now traditional farewell trip to Scotland. Welcome to the last episode of the Genesis Diaries. It's a fond farewell to the electrified GV70, but welcome back to AutoEV. Now, before we get started on this week's rather sombre episode of AutoEV, it is time, of course, for me to ask you just to make sure you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, make sure you press the bell button that's down below, because then you'll be notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you've watched it, if you do enjoy it, and I sincerely hope you do, despite the sadness in my eyes, then of course make sure you give it a little thumbs up, and don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars we feature, especially our long-term cars, such as the Genesis Electrified GV70, and of course on the AutoEV channel overall. So, as you know, I run long-term test cars through AutoEV. I live with cars. You know, we get to drive a lot of different cars, a lot of new electric cars. You know, we get to see a lot of new ones before they're announced, and it's all very good and it's all very well and all the rest of it. And living with a car, as I say, for a week is fine. It's great. And especially if you've got a little bit of time and I can just go and do normal stuff with it. You know, like take my daughter to school or over to see her pals or whatever, or go and do the shopping and or whatever it is, you know. But living with a car is very different. You know, 6 months I've spent, you know, so like with cars that I've had as long-termers. And this 6 months I've had with this Genesis GV70, I think has been a real eye-opener for me. Because when I had my Megane, my Renault Megane, I loved the car when I drove it and reviewed it at the launch. And it's the same with the BMW iX2 in some respects. I really knew there was a good car there, and I thought, oh, I'd just like to get to know it a bit better. And I had that for 6 months, and I really liked my BMW, despite its looks. The Genesis was slightly different, because I remember reviewing it and going, yeah, it's all right, you know, it's a good car and all the rest of it, but it's a lot of money, and I think you'd probably just end up going and buying something else. So when Genesis said to me, do you want one? And they were going to say to me, do you want a GV60? And I went, no, I don't. I want a GV70. I want to try this because I think I maybe got it a little bit wrong in some respects. And I really did, because as I say, I've spent 6 months with this car now as, you know, as our family car, to the point our actual family car, our Jeep Grand Cherokee, has hardly turned a wheel in the last 6 months. This has been the car that we have been using, and my partner's been driving it as well, and her thoughts are going to come up in the video as well. So it really changed my perspective of the car, and it really changed my mind, dare I suggest, on the Genesis brand overall. And that's what I wanted to sort of like really talk to you about in this last episode, because as I say, we've done a road test review on it, we've done an introduction to the car, and we've gone through the spec, and I've gone over the sort of like the styling and all the rest of it again, and we've done a twin test with it against the Audi Q8 e-tron. Now, if you haven't seen that video, you should go and watch it. I will pop a link up there, so watch that after you've watched this one if you're interested in spending round about sort of like 65 to 80,000 pounds on electric SUV. Sorry, I should smile because I can't help but thinking 65 to 80,000 pounds, such a lot of money. But this is a car that really flies under a lot of people's radars, and you need to take notice of it, because trust me, I think this is a hidden gem. But it's not It doesn't immediately become apparent to you if you have a quick test drive in it. But as I say, living with it for the last 6 months, boy, has it changed my mind what this car is all about. So, let's crack on. Let's do another quick little walk around of the car. Let me tell you what I like about it, also what I don't like about it. We'll get Lizzie's thoughts on it at the end of the video. But yeah, it's a sad day. Right, let's start by telling you what my car actually is. Okay, so if you haven't watched the other episodes in this, I'll just briefly go over the specification of my car for you, just so you know what car we're actually talking about. Now, it's interesting because the Electrified GV70 only comes in one trim level. It's one spec only, it's Sport, which I think is a little bit of a misleading name in some respects, but I will talk about that a little bit later on. So it's an Electrified GV70 Sport. And unlike, dare I suggest, some other cars that where you get, especially new brands that are trying to, dare I suggest, break into sort of like the market, like Genesis have been trying to do, you know, you still have a lot of options to put on the cars. A lot of newer cars, they come out and they go, that's the spec of it, that's what we're going to hit you with, is this value proposition. And in some ways, I sort of think that Genesis maybe should have done that. And that's what I alluded to back when I did my road test review of the car. I sort of like said, you know, if it come out at the brace price of 65,000 with everything as standard, you'd have gone, oh yeah, that's the car to buy. But by the time you spec'd it up, it is quite an expensive car. But watch the twin test with the Audi Q8 e-tron and you'll understand where I'm coming from with the Genesis. Whilst you do have to spend quite a lot of money to get a nice spec car, you do end up with something really rather special indeed. And I'm also going to talk about second-hand cars as well in this video. So there we go. So what have I got? So as I say, this is the spec of my car. So I've got a spec sheet here just so I don't miss anything out. So it's an Electrified GV70, one spec, it's a Sport. The colour is a uni white pearl. UYUNI, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, a uni white pearl. That was a mistake because despite the blue skies, it's absolutely filthy at the moment. I drove it up from Surrey to Scotland yesterday morning, and whilst it was quite a nice day, I mean overnight it's been frosty, and I've come up into sort of like the wilds of southwest Scotland this morning and it's absolutely filthy. So maybe that was a mistake running a white car through the winter time. But it does look nice when it's clean, and it's a pearlescent, and it is it's very nice to look at when it's clean. The interior's obsidian black, that's a standard finish. So my car has the Innovation Pack, and I'll tell you about these in a second. The comfort seat pack, the Lexicon audio system, which is brilliant, the Napa leather seat pack, the outdoor pack, sunroof pack, convenience pack and second row seat comfort pack, the 20-inch alloy wheels, the white brake calipers, and that's it. So there we go. So what is the those packs? Now hang on a second, because I have to now go to another page, and I shall tell you. So you get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, obviously standard. It's got front and rear parking sensors, the rear view camera with dynamic reversing guidelines. That's quite handy. Now the Innovation Pack is a head-up display, surround view monitor, blind spot view monitor, remote smart parking assist, and dual LED headlights with intelligent front lighting system and a 12.3-inch 3D cluster display. Okay, fair enough. Right, the long and short of it is my car was £79,500, okay, which is a lot of money, a huge amount of money. It starts at 64.5 grand, this car, but this one's got 15,000, near as damn it, £15,000 worth of options on it. But there's nothing on this car that you wouldn't want in some respects. By the time you've got it up to the spec, and this is what I mean, if you're thinking about a car like this as a second-hand purchase, if you get it with all, it wants for nothing. You know, heated, ventilated seats, massage seats, you know, which are phenomenal. My drive up yesterday was fantastic because after a certain amount of time, it has a thing called posture assist on the comfort seat pack, where after, I think it's like, I don't know, if it's about an hour and a half of driving or something, it starts this massage function, and it is blissful. Now, I don't normally like massage seats, but you can choose what type of massage that it gives you. And as I say, it just alleviates any strain. You know, 6 hours drive yesterday. No problem whatsoever. I'm an old man, I'm not fit. You know, you get out feeling fresh as a daisy after driving this for that length of time. Brilliant, absolutely fantastic. So that's something that I think is quite important. Again, if you're looking at a second-hand one, make sure you get a list of what was optional on the car when it was new, because some of those options I think you're really going to want to have. It's also got the panoramic roof, which I like, and the Napa leather's really soft and really nice. But I'll say we'll talk about that in a wee second. Right, so that's the spec of my car, okay? As I say, 6 months, 3,500 miles. I'd like to have done more miles in the car, if I'm being blunt about it, but just, I have press cars coming and going every single week for review on AutoEV and for House of Cars. That's why Liz has been driving this car a huge amount, which is why I want her view on it as well, so you can see what she thinks about it, not a car person's view, an owner's view as well, because she's really going to miss it. But things that I really like about it, well, I really love the look of it. It took me a little while in some respects. There's bits of it I don't like in some respects, although I can't make my mind up about the chrome. I'm not a big lover of chrome, but I don't know, sometimes I look at it and I think it looks really, especially when it's clean, it looks really smart. But there's other times I look at it and go, I don't know if I'd have the chrome. There's a new facelifted car coming out soon. So that's, and I think you can have that with a black pack or something on it as well. So that might have looked a little bit better. But I do like the way the car looks. Now these are the 20-inch wheels that are on the car. These are optional. And with the white calipers against the white paint. Sorry, I'm next to a main road here, so apologies. You'll see the odd car going past. Yeah, the white calipers against the white paint. I do like that. But yeah, the chrome's the one thing I'm still not 100% sure of. Your outdoor pack, I think, means you get the roof rails and something else. I don't know, it doesn't list it what it actually is. But I do like the way that the car looks. And you've got the traditional sort of like Genesis look to the front, you know, with the twin blade headlights, the twin lights at the back, the big sort of shield grille. Again, if you're a regular viewer, there's two things on it you'll know that I don't like. This slight overbite, dare I suggest, the bonnet has. And this line here looks really odd, I think, because it starts on a horizontal, on a flat plane here, and then it moves around as it curves onto the wing and it becomes a vertical shut line. It's really odd, and I'm just not sure about that personally. It always kind of sticks in my craw a wee bit when I see that. Feels like sometimes like the bonnet's not shut properly, but it is. That could be better executed. But other than that, I do like it. It's got a fantastically well hidden charging flap, because obviously you don't get the open grille like you get on the combustion engine car. And the flap just opens up there. Now it's not electric like you get in that silly Q6 out. It takes an age and a day. It's just well hidden, it's at the front. You just got to obviously watch in case you bump the front of the car, but it makes it nice and easy. Just pull into a parking bay and charge up. This bit down here I think should be a nicer, maybe a mesh, like a wire mesh, black wire mesh rather than the plastic grille. But other than that, yeah, I love the way this thing looks. The other thing that I really love about it is the design of the doors. And I've mentioned this quite a few times on cars, but if you look, they wrap right underneath the sills, and I don't think I've had a car where they really do go right under the sill. So when I open that up, there is a completely clean sill there. So as I get in and out of the car, especially as I say with the weather at the moment, with how filthy it is, you know, I don't make, my trousers don't get all dirty trying to get in and out of the car, or if somebody's getting in wearing a skirt or something, they're not getting that sort of like, covered in muck as they get in and out. And down at the bottom of the doors on the inside, it's just got a nice piece of plastic trim as well, which means it seals really nicely. And the other thing, that is a satisfying thud. Just locked it. One of the things I really do like about the Genesis is how you get into the boot. And obviously you can do it from the key, but the boot release is actually on the wiper arm. It's not a split window, so it's not like the window opens separately to the boot, but look at the state of the car at the moment. So it's not like you're having to grapple around underneath here. You just push that little button and that's it. So you can do it from the key, you can do it from inside the car, oh, he says, or you do it from that little button. And I think that's a really neat little design touch. I do like that. See what I mean about how filthy I've got it? It's just white cars, you can't do anything about it. Right, so 503 litres of boot space. That's what you get in it, okay? Now, in fairness, we've not done a huge trip with the car in terms of a big family trip loaded with stuff like, we go to Cornwall at Easter time. Obviously this car's going back before we go down there. We go to France in the summer. Obviously we didn't have it, we went to France last year. But I've been up and down to Scotland a couple of times in the car, in fairness. Now, 503 litres. It's all right, okay? It's not the biggest in its class, all right? Obviously I don't have a suitcase and things, so I've just got my camera bag and my hold-all, which is down at my mum's. You can fold down the 60-40 split rear seat, and that takes it up to 1,676 litres from memory. You've got this nice little underfloor bit here. If you take the parcel shelf off, you can clip it in there. Now I do like that. I like being able to store the parcel shelf if you take it off. If you go to the tip or something like that, you don't leave it at home, or just stick it laying in the back seats. So it's nice to have that. That's my issue, is the height. Okay, it's not particularly high, and this seems to be a Hyundai Kia Genesis thing. The distance, the shallow boot is quite difficult. So if you're thinking of things like, especially wheelchairs, You know, my mum's in her 80s and she's got like a walker, so I take her out in it. You know, so if I had loads of stuff in there and putting the walker in, it's quite difficult in some respects because of the height. You've got to try and lay it flat and, you know, convolute it and fold it all up and stuff. So if you're thinking of wheelchairs and stuff, just be aware of that. Pushchairs and things, maybe not so bad because obviously they concertina up and things. So just be aware of that. So it's the height of the actual shallowness of the boot that's the issue. Sloping rear tailgate. Obviously, you know, because of the styling, you know, but again, most cars are a little bit like that. But there's no doubt there are better cars in its class for practicality. But it's okay. You know, the actual overall volume's fine, and it's a reasonable space, and also it's a flat entry into it. You know, you don't have to drop down things and, you know, lift stuff out, so it's quite a nice height of car. But as I say, obviously things like, you know, I don't know, Skoda Enyaqs, you know, they're 580 litres and things like that. Obviously a lot less money, they're a different class of car. But yeah, that's the only downside I think with it, is the shallowness of the boot. But it's been okay for us in terms of actually sort of like its usable space. Now obviously I don't sit in the back of this car that often. In fact, I don't think I have. Well, I have, yes, of course I have. So my daughter normally sits back here. No, I'm 5'8". That seat slides back. It's got the front comfort access or whatever it's called. So when you get out of the car, the seat slides back. So that's not my driving position. That's somebody much taller than me, which, let's be fair, is pretty much everyone. But even so, there is still room here, you know, but that seat will be further forward if it's somebody in here. But my daughter Katie's 11. She's a tall 11. She had a friend with her the other night. I was taking them out to they go to the Scouts. She's in the Scouts, and I was taking a couple of them that, and they were in the back here, and it's absolutely fine, you know, for the kids and stuff like that. You've got this rear climate control system on my car, so you get heated rear seats as well, plus climate control, plus face vents down at the bottom there. Might be nice to have them maybe one up in the door as well, you know, thinking of the dogs. And so we've got a dog. He sits in the back seat in his little sort of like dog bed, his little dog carrier thing, so that might be nice to see that, but you know, it's not a problem. What is nice as well is, however, you can move the passenger seat forward and back, you know, if you're sitting over on that side. So if you've got need a little bit extra space for the kids and you don't have to sort of try and lean over to move it, you can just do it from the buttons on the side. That's quite handy. There's connectivity. There's 2 USB-A ports down there for them as well. It's a relatively flat floor. This is the interesting thing with this car, because although it's based on a combustion engine car, because obviously you can have this with a 2.5 litre turbo 4-cylinder engine, there's not only is there an almost a flat floor across the back of the car, 800 volt architecture when it comes to the electrical architecture of it, which is phenomenal. And also I'm going to talk about efficiency and stuff like that in a second or two. Yeah, so again, the spec of ours, you've got the sun blinds in the back. They're really nicely integrated in the door, to the point you don't even know they're there unless you're really looking for them. You know, and everything just feels quality. You know, the leather's really soft. You know, Katie's pal Alexander the other night commented how soft he thought the leather was. You know, he said it's really, really nice. You know, this is Napa leather. You obviously get fold-down armrests with cup holders as well, which is nice and handy. And the ISOFIX points, whilst I don't need them now, they're okay. They're not covered. You know, in terms of just under little plastic covers, you've got to jab the prongs of the seat into them between the backrest and the squab. But yeah, other than that, as I say, it's been fine for us. You know, but there's only 3 of us and a dog, so it's not really, you know, we don't need anything huge in that sense. But there's not been a scenario where this car hasn't really been acceptable and, you know, excellent for us as a family. So yeah, it's good that way in terms of its practicality and rear seat. But the comfort, well, the comfort is off the chart, I think. Now, I'm not going to give you a full rundown of the interior because I've done that, and I know I talk too much anyway, but I'm just going to tell you what things I like and what I don't like, which is why the camera's there. So this is going to get a redesign for the new car. So you can have more of the twin screen style like you've seen on the Hyundais and Kias, you know, rather than a separate instrument gauge cluster and a separate infotainment screen. It's going to lose this little panel here in some respects, which got the climate controls, which I think is a little bit of a shame because I really like that, you know, and it does work really, really well. There's enough physical controls in the car as well that I do like, you know, so, and everything you touch in this car has quality about it, you know, and again, that's the thing about it. It's living with it and touching stuff that you wouldn't normally touch in a test drive. You're going, God, that feels really nice, you know. That the biggest point in case I'm going to make about this is this bit here. This is where your wireless charger is for your phone, okay? It has its own cover, and watch. That is so beautifully damped. It's silent. Somebody you just know has obsessed over days with that. And I just love that. That's the thing I absolutely, and it's little stuff like that, as I say, that just shines home to you once you start living with the car. The Audi had that cheap, sort of like rattly piano black cover that slid across the cup holder and stuff. Okay, it doesn't have a cup holder cover over it, but you know if it did, it would move like that. And that's what I mean. It's the quality that you just don't appreciate on a test drive that you start to really appreciate as you live with it. You've got this, can't see it because of my cup and bottle holder. The gear shift here is this glass-topped knurled aluminium selector, not that plastic lozenge thing that the Audi has. It's glass and aluminium, and then the P button at the top to park it. You've got like the old, you know, the BMW iDrive style controllers. Again, it's cut glass, you know, it's beautiful with bits of aluminium inlaid into it. And that moves, and you can use that as the screen. Now, that is quite handy in fairness, because that's a touch screen as well, but it is quite a stretch forward, especially if you're a wee shorty like me. That is quite a stretch forward. But so you can use this to go through it, which isn't so great in some respects if you're using Apple CarPlay, because Apple CarPlay is designed for touchscreens, you know, like on a phone, you know, it's set up like an iPhone, so it's designed to be touched. So that's the only downside with that. Going through the Genesis menus and stuff is fine on that, but if you're using Apple CarPlay, you're usually quicker off just leaning forward and touching it. So it's not perfect, but you know what I'm saying there. And the only other thing I always find odd, and I've said it before, I think these two are round the wrong way, because the number of times, even though I've had this car for 6 months now, that I've gone to change gear or, you know, move it from reverse into drive by turning the controller. I think the transmission should be the one at the front and that controller should be at the back, because also as you're driving, if you do drive with your arm resting, that's the more natural position for your hand to find it. Maybe it's me, but that's how I feel about it and all the rest of it. There we go. This panel here, the air conditioning controls, is really nice. Because obviously you've got a touch panel in here for things like your heated seats and your cooled seats. But again, for adjusting temperature, it's just these knurled aluminium bezels around there. But there is the little touch panel in here, which is quite nice and easy to move. And then, sorry, nice and easy to use on the move, I should say. And then you've got these two sort of like buttons at the side, one for syncing up and then one for you know, air recirculation stuff. They're quite nice because they're just a big physical button. And it's the same on the steering wheel. You've got physical buttons on the wheel. And things like volume control and tuning, again, it's this knurled aluminium rotary controller, you know, for turning the volume up or for tuning the radio. And it's the same again on the steering wheel with your thumbs. It's so easy to use and so ergonomically satisfying just as you're driving along and somebody's speaking to you, just turn the volume down with your thumb, and it just feels nice in your hand and the way it clicks. It's like a bezel on a really nice diver's watch, you know, the way these things move. And it just speaks to me that somebody really has put thought into that, and it makes it feel premium. And as I say, that's to me the big thing. If you go out in this car for 10 minutes, you're concentrating how it drives and stuff, you won't get to appreciate some of the stuff in the car. It's only when you start to really use it, you go, oh God, that feels really nice. See, that's just delicious. I can't stop opening that. And then you get some physical controls down here, so for your map, navigation to bring it up, and then a shortcut button. Oh, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And your radio and media. Wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, that's not always the case. I think the earlier GV70 Electrics had to have a wired connection. Mine doesn't. Mine's is a wireless one connection for Android, for Apple CarPlay. So just check with that. And then in the door panel, you get the nice. Now the door handles themselves are plastic, but they just feel substantial. And when you, as I say, oh, that's lovely. That's really, really nice. And then the metal speaker grille there, you know, for the Lexicon audio system, which is superb, by the way. Really, really great sound out of it as well. And then nice controls on the door for just your windows and your what do you call it? Your mirrors. There, that's great. Right, what was I going to talk about there? Ah, yes, the safety controls. Right, so this has changed slightly since I got this car. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of the safety control systems, you know, lane keep assist and all that kind of the ADAS systems. And car manufacturers are getting better now at sort of like, you know, making them easy to access. And the Genesis is quite good. So the two that I don't like is lane keep assist and speed limit warning. So to turn lane keep assist off is a button on the steering wheel. You just press and hold the lane keep assist button and it goes off, okay? If you want to turn off the speed limit warning, It's in the menu system, but I've programmed it into my favourites. There's a favourites button on the steering wheel, a little star here, and if I press that, it brings up the driver assistance systems. Now, that's one area where again, you're going to have to scroll across to it and to the right. But if you just lean across, press it, and then turn it off, that's it, and then done. So they're quite easy to get. Now that's changed again on the new ones. It's a bit like BMW do. If you press and hold the volume button on the steering wheel for more than 3 seconds, the same with Kia and Hyundai. If you press and hold the volume button on the steering wheel for more than 3 seconds, that turns the lane keep assist off. So they've made it even easier now. So those two things are actually on the steering wheel. So that's good. You got brake regen paddles up on the wheel as well. But the comfort is off the chart with this car. Now this car, as I say, has got the Napa leather. These seats, this front row. Now I did say that I've mentioned stuff when I was talking about the thing, and I didn't. So apologies on that. Where is it here? The convenience pack, the second row convenience pack and second row comfort pack. That gives you heated front and rear seats, heated steering wheel, third zone climate control, and the premium air filter and rear acoustic glazing, which again we'll have a wee chat about when we're out driving it. The heated steering wheels, 3-stage heating. That's really good as well. So again, if it gets too hot, you can just turn it down via here, the little touch button on the pad there. There's cameras all around the car as well, so you've got parking cameras front and rear and at the side, and also as well it's got the really cool thing that Kia and Hyundai do as well. So when you indicate, you get the gauge cluster changes to show you the down the side, your blind spot down the side of it from the cameras on the mirror. That's brilliant. I know Tesla do that now as well. That's fabulous. It's right up in the gauge cluster and it changes. So you come up and down the motorway, you're joining a motorway, or you're coming onto the motorway down a slip road, and it just says if a car's coming up the one side. And obviously you also get a visible warning in the mirror with a little triangle, and it also beeps if it's right next to you as well. So the safety kit's good. But it's not intrusive, and you can turn the bits off that I like. But the quality, I mean, the dashboard, everything is 3,500 miles. Not a squeak, not a rattle, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's as quiet as a church mouse in here. It really is. It's absolutely fabulous, and everything feels like it did the first day that I got the car. I mean, just that. Look how easily that is damped, and then that just satisfying click. It's lovely, genuinely lovely. Honestly, you've got to go and look at one of these if you're in the marketplace, because this thing is just superb. I said I wasn't going to waffle on about the interior, and that's exactly what I've done. I've waffled again, apologies. The other thing that I didn't mention, again, it's difficult to show you today because obviously we're in the daylight. This here, this is lovely. This is the ambient lighting for the interior. And it's down the centre console as well. So you get it in the doors, front and back, and down the centre console on the driver's side. And the only way I can describe it is like, those sort of like real sort of like 1930s jazz clubs, they're sort of like Ronnie Scott's or something like that, or like a really Art Deco style hotel. And they've got those lamps, that are really sort of like, it diffuses the light. This is what this is. So it shines through from behind this. And obviously you can change the colour of it. I've got it shining white, for obvious reasons, it's a white car, white stitching. But it's such a nice ambient glow at night. It's not too bright. It's just nice, and it just, as I say, it's the only way I can describe it is that it's like an Art Deco jazz club that you're in. And this is what I mean. It's the luxurious sort of like traits that Genesis have brought in that aren't immediately apparent. That just the more you go on, you go, God, look at that. At night when I was driving it, when I first got it, I was like, I really like that. That's lovely. It feels, and that's it. It feels special. So yes, it is a huge amount of money, this car. There is no getting away from that. This car was nigh on £80,000, which is a lot of money. Even these days, it's a lot of money for a car. But boy, does it feel worth £80,000. It genuinely does. And that is the next thing we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about price and value now. One, because as I say, it's an awful lot of money. Okay, it starts at £65,000 plus options. As I say, this car was £79,565 or whatever it was. Now, with Genesis, you do get quite a comprehensive after-sales package, okay? And again, just relating back to the twin test we did with Audi Q6 e-tron, that was one of the points I was making with it. The ownership package you get with Genesis is brilliant. 5-year warranty, 5 years servicing as well. And if you live within a 30-mile radius of a Genesis dealer, now there's not a lot of them around in fairness, but if you live within a 30-mile radius of a Genesis dealer, they come and pick your car up, drop it back to you and leave you a Genesis loan car while yours is away being serviced. You're assigned a personal assistant, you know, when you buy the car and all that. Now, their model hasn't quite worked in the UK in some respects. I think maybe they were thinking of, a lot of people will start to buy online and that's why you can do it remotely. I think personally, and this is a personal thought, having been in the motor trade for 30 years, I was a car salesman for nearly 30 years. When you're spending this level of money especially, you still like to go into a dealership. You still like to see what you're buying. It's not like you're buying something off Amazon. It's not like you're buying a new phone case or, you know, a pair of boots or whatever, or a new bag off Amazon. You're spending £80,000 on a motor car. You want to make sure it's right. And you need to go and you need to spend some time with it. And I think that's in some respects where Genesis have maybe missed a bit of a trick. You know, if they can get that bit right, and they are changing, you know, they're going to have more dealerships, as it were, in the UK, you know, and they're changing their strategy. The combustion engine cars have been taken off sale. That's not saying they're not going to come back with them at maybe a later stage, or hybrids as new models come out, they maybe will do, but it's just the electric models that are currently for sale as new cars in the UK. But I think they'll change the way that people do this. I think they need to understand that people spending this level of money still want to go into a dealership. They still want to see what they're buying. They still want to touch it, feel it, sniff it, drive it, you know, hug it, squeeze it, call it George, all that kind of stuff. That's what they need to do. They need to get that. You know, it's a luxury item. If you're selling a luxury item, people want to understand what they're getting for their money. So there we go. I've waffled on about that enough. 5-year warranty with the car, 5 years servicing, 5 years roadside assistance as well. Now, second hand, okay, these depreciate quite a bit, okay, in some respects. So this car is a 2024 and a 24 plate. So I got it September last year. 3,500 miles, £80,000 new. What's it worth today? Well, look, you can buy one of these, not this age, you can buy a little bit older than this. It's maybe done a bit more miles, you know, 15 to 20,000 miles, maybe a year older than this, you know, one of the very early ones. They're now starting to creep into sort of the early 40,000s, you know, 41, 42,000 pounds, depending on specification, okay? And if you do go for the combustion engine one, you can pick them up for the early 30s now. Some are dropping below the £30,000 bracket. But again, be careful with that, because the combustion engine car isn't quite the same spec as these, as the sport that you get with this one. You know, you don't get things like the leather and stuff like that. So you just have to be a wee bit careful with the spec. But at 40 grand, what a car for £40,000. That buys you a Vauxhall Astra electric these days, 40 grand. I know what I'd rather be driving, trust me. You know, that's a huge amount of sort of like value. And I know 40 grand's a lot of money. Please don't get, I'm not trivialising money here. But £40,000 for this. And of course, if it's only 2 years old, you'll still have 3 years warranty, 3 years servicing and 3 years roadside assistance with that. Trust me, that is an absolute bargain, if you want to say that. Now, the one thing I really haven't spoken about so far is range and efficiency and battery. So in case you haven't watched any of the other reviews of the GV70, it's a 77.4 kilowatt hour battery the car has. And according to WLTP figures, it should do 283 miles. If you look on something that I tend to get a real world range figures from, the EV database, they suggest it's 235 miles. And I'd say that's very accurate, because that's pretty much in the 1 month what I've got out of the car. 235, 240 miles if you were being really, really careful with it. So, okay, I admit, that's a lot of money for a car that can just do over 200 miles. But to me, in some respects, that's not really the important thing about this car. Because I say, against that Q6 e-tron, that didn't do much better, and that had a much bigger battery than this. Where this really wins is its charging capability. Because as I said, although it's based on a combustion engine car platform, this car is 800 volt architecture, meaning its charging speeds are huge. It can charge up to, it can take rapid charging up to, I think it's 270 odd kilowatts. So if you're using one of those 350 kilowatt chargers, this thing will go from 10 to 80% in 18 minutes. That is the key for me, because it's not so much now about when we know that cars don't do the range that they say they'll do. If you're buying an electric car, you come to that term, you know, you come to terms with that, you know that. But for doing a trip like, you know, from my house in Surrey to Scotland, 350 miles, what am I interested in? I'm interested in how fast it will charge, because that's the time I'm going to be stopped, okay? Now, I charged twice coming up the road yesterday. And you're going to see a separate video of the trip charging, because that's what I like to do as well, so you can see the efficiency. But here's the thing, on both of those chargers, it charged way quicker than I was anticipating it doing. And the other interesting thing was, spoiler alert for that video, is if you use the inbuilt navigation system for the car. Now, I know where I'm coming, I know where my mum's house is. I've been doing this journey for 20 odd years. I shouldn't, but I could do it blindfold if I really needed to. But if you use the navigation system, what will happen is the car will calculate the route, it will calculate its efficiency as it goes along the route, and it will then say, right, this is where you're going to stop and charge. And it was interesting because yesterday when I left home, it said I was going to stop 3 times, okay? But I only stopped twice, because obviously it then realises, oh, actually, I don't need as much charge as I thought I was going to. So it recalculates it, and it preconditions the battery. So about 10 minutes before I'm about to stop, you see a little symbol comes on the dashboard, and it'll tell you the battery is starting to precondition itself. So it's able to take that fast charge. And both the chargers that I stopped at yesterday, you know, I went in, I had a cup of coffee. The first one, you know, in the morning at the big NEC, the big hub at the NEC centre in Birmingham. I went into the Starbucks, had a cup of coffee and and a croissant. And by the time I'd finished that, the thing was, in fact, it had charged it up to full. I was only thinking it was going to go to 80%. It had done it up to full. And that's why it then reconfigured, and it made me stop only one more time. And again, it was just the time it took to order a coffee, and something else to eat. And I'm on my way again. So that's the key with it, is how fast it will charge, not the range that it does, because in some respects the range is a little bit disappointing. But its efficiency, I'll measure that for you, but it's only, bear in mind, I'm doing it on motorway, so which is never the car's best friend, an electric car's best friend, so do bear that in mind. It does have an onboard 11 kilowatt charging facility, so if you're if you've got 3-phase electricity, maybe at your workplace, it will charge on that. But if you're a 7 kilowatt wall box user like I am, then a full charge will take around about 11 hours from flat to full. Right, let's go for a drive, shall we? Oh, I better switch the car on, that would help. There we go. Ready to start driving? Yes, I am. This is a great road, by the way. I grew up around here. This is, I grew up in a little town called Lochmaben. I've done some videos in Lochmaben. In fact, I introduced this car in Lochmaben when I did the introduction of this car. I was out in Lochmaben. And my mum lives in Lockerbie, and I went to school in Lockerbie. And I've never really been up this way. This is Eskdale-Muir, which is about 12-13 miles outside Lockerbie. And a friend of mine said about this road, and it's absolutely fabulous. Love it. Now I'm just coming past the Sammy Ling Tibetan Centre. There's a bloody great big Tibetan Centre there. There's a big Buddha down here in the car park. Yeah, big gold Buddha in the car park. Right, so let's talk about the car, okay? 480 horsepower. This is the surprising thing with this car. 480 horsepower that you get in it. Oh, let me just turn off my bits and pieces. So I turn that. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You press the button on the steering wheel. You're actually easier to wait for it to come up. Speed limit, warning, and then off. There we go. Job done. So that's that. And then lane keep assist. Hold on, press on the button on the steering wheel. Job done. That's them both off now. They default on every time you get in the car. That's the only thing to be aware of. It does have fingerprint recognition as well, so it sets up my profile, my radio stations and stuff like that through the fingerprint recognition, which is good. 480 horsepower. When you go into the boost mode, it will scamper to 60 miles an hour in 4.2 seconds. I mean, it is biblically fast, this car. It really is. But it genuinely, nearly 500 horsepower, not 64.2 seconds. Yes, it's fun and all the rest of it. That's not what I think this car is about. The car could do it, in 6 seconds. It could have 100 horsepower less. I wouldn't care. It's the way this car drives. that it really wins me over, because it's its refinement. And I alluded to this an awful lot in that twin test with the Audi. So Genesis, there's two things that the Genesis has, which is two things that I think really make this car what it is. The first thing is it has acoustic glass. Okay, it's got it in the rear of this one as well. So you've got the acoustic glazing in it, which cuts down just road noise. So it doesn't matter whether you're on motorway, whether you're on these sort of, like, you know, tarmac country roads out in sort of the wilds of Scotland or whatever, the car is biblically quiet, which is great from a point of view if you've got a long drive like I did yesterday. You don't feel overly tired, you know, it just keeps its, you know, sort of like the volume of the drive down. If you've got it, you're using it as a family car, you've got your kids sleeping in the back or whatever, you know, there's not sort of like loads of road noise or anything else coming into the car, or wind noise. That's excellent too. So from those point of views, it really is very good. Plus as well, you can just have a nice conversation with your passengers. You know, you're not having to raise your voices over sort of like, you know, extraneous noises coming in from outside the car. So from that point of view, first of all, it's fabulous, okay? The refinement of it is off the chart. The acoustic glass helps with that. The second thing is the ride quality of it, okay? So it has a camera up in here, which then scans the road ahead and then sets up the suspension accordingly. Now, this is a particularly bad bit of road here that I'm on, okay? Lots of, a few potholes and undulations and changes of camber and stuff, and this thing just smooths it out. And that's the big difference for me, is how this car, you know, drives is just incredible, absolutely incredible. You know, it's swift, of course it is, you'd expect that with this level of power, but the fact that you're just not getting any noise coming in from the outside of the car. And you, interestingly enough, when I was driving out here, and I had just really, as I say, the first time I'd been on this road, I popped it into sport, okay, which obviously sharpens up the throttle. What it now does is it's tightened up the seat as well. Okay, so all the seats tightened up, and it actually sinks the seat a little bit lower. It almost bumps it up at the front, just gets your bum down, so it really clamps you in the driver's seat of the car, so you don't move. But the sport side of things, and the sports, is, you know, it doesn't feel firm, it doesn't feel, you know, really jiggly or hard, which is something that I have felt with a lot of other cars. You don't get that with this. And you can actually feel the suspension work harder. You know, you can really feel the suspension dealing with everything. And that's in a good way. You know, there's a lot of communication underneath the car in the chassis. I've always said the steering's a bit vague, and it is. You know, you pitch it into a bend. Yeah, you know, there's not the sort of like the bite from the front end that you get from, say, the I-Pace. You're not quite sure which way the wheels are pointing. It's got a reasonable weight to the wheel, but it's just the actual sort of like, you know, precision of knowing exactly where the wheels are, the angle, the attack they're at, you don't really get from the Genesis. That's one of the flaws with the car. From a driver's point of view, is if you're a spirited driver, that's the one flaw with it, is the steering's just that little bit vague. You know, the Jaguar I-Pace is better. The Audi Q6 steering was a little bit better as well. Again, you just had a bit more feel from it. This is just kind of, well, I know the wheels are turning because the car's moving, but that's about it. That's the only way you know. But other than that, the rest of it, I'm quite surprised at how well this car deals with roads like this. You know, it really, you know, I'm not saying it attacks them, you know, like a Hyundai Ioniq 5N, but it really doesn't, you know, it doesn't feel wallowy, it doesn't feel wafty, which is exactly what it does feel on the motorway. It feels wafty. You know, it feels comfortable, it feels just well controlled and things like that. But then you put it into sport mode and get it into roads like this, and you apply throttle, jeez, oh, and it just flings you out of the bend. And that's a shame. If they could get the steering right, it would be nigh on perfect. Brakes are good. I like the brakes in the car. You know, they haul the car up with a stop. Brakes have been a thing for me of late, with a couple of cars where I've just felt like the pedal's not got quite the feel to it. I mean, I've got nothing behind me. Jeez, oh. That was a full-on stop. That's brilliant. You know, I mean, it just hauls the car up. But you can also adjust the regen via the paddles behind the steering wheel. I usually leave it in the auto mode. So if there's nothing in front of you, it won't happen. But if there's something in front, you come off the pedal, it starts to regen, uses the camera, and it'll, you know, it'll haul the car up. Or if you've got the nav on, it knows if there's like a roundabout, that type of thing. So that's pretty good as well. But yeah, this is a fabulous thing to drive. And it's quiet. It's so quiet. You know, I'm doing some miles an hour now. And I maybe shouldn't admit to. Listen, not a thing. And I'm whispering. It's just, yeah. I'm really going to miss this car. I'm really going to miss it. And we all are as a family. You know, we've all loved having it, you know. Liz especially, she really loves this car. And it's not often she will turn around and actually say, I'm sad that's going back. I'm sad that you know, we're not going to have that car anymore. You know, she liked the Megane. She thought it was all right. Just, you know, family car. She said, yeah, get it while you like it. It's nice to drive. It's just a wee family car. The BMW, she wasn't quite so sure of the BMW. She didn't quite get it like I did. But this, she adores this thing. You see, trying to get the keys off her. It's just like, you know, it's ridiculous. But yeah, as a family, we've really loved it. And it's sad that it's going back. Its efficiency's been all right. I'm going to do a separate video on its efficiency, which I may put out before or after this one, depending on how things go. But, you know, it's not bad. It's not been the best. But as I say, for me, as I was saying earlier, it's not so much that impresses, but the charging speed. Its rate of charge is what I really like about it. You know, the fact that it will charge at such a high rate. And that makes long journeys like these an absolute breeze, because you're just not stopped that long. Oh, okay, admittedly, as long as you get the, you know, a charger that's free and working and all the rest of it. But you know, 99.9% of the time that I do these long trips, those chargers tend to be free and working. I don't think the network is as bad as some of the general media will have you believe. So things are a lot better. But yeah, this is a good car for that, you know, so you're not stopped that long. But geez, this is, I don't think I'd fully appreciated actually how sporty this car is on twisty roads, because I don't normally come up here on my own driving on these roads, but this is fabulous. But yeah, it's a sad day. My last long drive in the Genesis. And it has been a brilliant 6 months of ownership. It really has. The next car, its replacement, has a lot to live up to. It's a very different style of car that I'm getting next, by the way. Very different style of car. So it's not a direct comparison, but in terms of how lovely this has been to have as your everyday car for the last 6 months. Well, as I say, when I've been able to actually get the keys off of Liz, it's been brilliant. And as I say, she loved it. So, and let's be fair, a happy wife is a happy life. Isn't that what they say? Right, sad day tomorrow.
Very.
This goes away tomorrow. There's a man going to come and knock on the door and take the keys away for this.
I will be very, very sad.
So you've been driving this probably more in some respects than I have.
Yep.
You have used this as a daily car. And I really am interested to get your opinions on this. So in terms of this car, you've really enjoyed it, haven't you?
I've absolutely loved this car.
Yeah. And if you were going to say, if I was going to say to you, right, give me your top thing about it and maybe something you don't like about it, what would you say in response? So what's been the best thing about the car for you?
I think there's just an absolute sense of luxury to this car. There is the look, the feel, the drive, the silence. Peculiar getting back into my Jeep after having driven this for a number of weeks. How loud that sounded by comparison. It felt like being in a tank.
Yeah, back in a diesel car. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it just glides.
Yeah, it just
everything about it to me just feels luxurious.
Yeah. And in terms of maybe something that's a negative, or something maybe not maybe such negative, something you maybe go, oh, that could be better, or that maybe I don't like that as much.
You know what? And you know I'm quite critical about the amount of cars we have parked on our driveways sometimes, but there is very, very little. As with every car, it takes you some time to figure out all the little nooks and crannies and buttons and such like. But once it's there, the ease of use, I don't think there's anything at all.
Because it's got quite a nice amount of physical buttons and stuff.
Correct.
You don't keep having to use the screens, which
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of cars
yeah,
have
yeah.
these days.
And I think, well, just again, the ease of use. So you've got, you know, kind of the remote charging, you know, the water bottle holder is in a convenient location, but it's not right under your elbows. So just everything about it feels like it's been incredibly thoughtful, incredibly thought out, and for the ease of the driver, but also taking into consideration passengers. You know, it is a big car.
Yeah.
And even when I've had either Katie in here with her friends in the back, or my mum and dad, for example, my mum's walker goes straight into the boot, no question. You know, and some other cars you can't say that without, you know, trying to take it apart or something. And then she can sit in the back, my dad sits in the front, there's no bashing of knees or anything else or worry. It's again, I just come back to it. I've absolutely loved this car. I will be gutted to see it going.
See, one of the things I think about it is the materials. Everything just feels, you've said the word before, luxurious.
Yes.
You know, just even the metal buttons and things where it all just feels nice and tactile as you touch something.
Absolutely.
Even the way that just is damped and things like that. I really like that. And I have to admit, I'm the same. It's one of those cars that when you first drive it for 5-10 minutes, you go, yeah, it's nice, but you know, but when you live with it,
it grows on you.
It really does, doesn't it?
I have loved it.
So is there something that you're not so keen on in terms of the driving position or, you know, things like that?
No, I think the driving position, the ease of use, as I said, the seats are incredibly comfortable. I think it's weird. Once you've been driving for a particular distance, a massage thing comes on your seat.
I love that.
And it almost kind of, you know, after that period of time when you have been driving, it just prompts you to kind of, you know, sit up a bit straighter.
Yeah.
All of that. I just think it's incredibly well thought out.
Okay. Well, as I say, it's going tomorrow. I'm really sorry.
I know.
But the thing is, the one thing I do want to ask is, now this is an incredibly expensive car.
Yes.
I mean, it was £80,000, this, and that's obviously beyond our means.
Well, we enjoy our holidays too much.
But if it was, you know, would you spend, the big question I always say, would you spend £80,000 of your own money on this car?
Absolutely.
You would.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would say this rates in, and you know I love my Jeep, and I love the height of it. You asked the question about what's the one thing. If this was a bit higher off the ground, you know, I love that position, looking down on people. But yeah, if it was just a bit higher off the ground, but yeah, I would be so happy with this if you brought it home.
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid it's gone.
I know.
That's it.
I know.
So, it's been a great 6 months and we have loved it. So, all right.
All right. Check for my sunglasses. They're around here somewhere.
Fine.
Okay.
So there you go. My final thoughts on the Genesis Electrified GV70. And of course, you've just heard Lizzie's final thoughts there as well. You know, it's funny. I'm very lucky with the job that I do. You know, we get a new press car delivered to us, you know, weekly, if not more than one in some respects, and I get to drive all the new cars that come out, and I do appreciate how fortunate I am in that position. But it's very rare that as a family we all agree on a car. You know, in some respects, you know, we're out as a family in them, and Liz will go, oh, that's a bit noisy, or my Katie in the back will say, oh, it's a bit cramped, or oh, I can't find the charging port for my phone charger or whatever, or there's nowhere to put my water bottle, or things like that. But the one car that we've all agreed on that we have absolutely fallen in love with has been this one. We adore this car. The Electrified GV70 has won us over as a family. You know, we are all very, very sad to see it go. You know, as I say, just over a week's time when I get back, you know, the guy's going to be coming and taking it. Its replacement is coming. It will be here, and I'll also do an introduction to that video. It's a very different style of car. You'll be pleased to know. Because a lot of people said, oh, I hope you're not getting another big electric SUV, Brian. Yeah, I'm not this time. You know, I'm going for something a bit different. But I'm genuinely going to miss this car because it is fabulous. And it's been a brilliant companion on a trip like this. And I just had to bring it up to Scotland because not only have I got some great driving roads up here, But it really just hammers home to me how luxurious this car is. How, as a brand, Genesis, have broken into, I think, the luxury establishment, and they need to be taken seriously. I've said it all through this review. I've said it pretty much in every review, every time I've featured the Genesis on the channel. You've got to take notice of this car. It's a real hidden gem. Whether you're a second-hand buyer or whether you're a new car buyer, it doesn't matter. If you've got the means to buy something like this, don't go and buy the Audi, don't buy the BMW or the Mercedes just yet until you've driven a Genesis. And I mean really driven it, because trust me, I think you'll really appreciate what this car is all about. The more time you spend with it, the more it just hammers home how good this is. Lexus, to me, they've taken a long time to sort of establish themselves, and but they are still mentioned, in the realms of BMW, Mercedes, and Audi, and and Jaguar in that sense. But the RZ450e was a little bit of a disappointment for me. But this hasn't been. This is a better car than the Lexus RZ450e. Now, don't get me wrong. Lexus, a lot of that was to do with the inefficiency of the car. I'm going to be driving the new 300e, by the way. Is it 300 or 350? The RZ300, the single motor one, which they tell me is more efficient. But even so, it's not going to be the car this is. Not the blended performance, comfort, build, refinement. The refinement is just unbelievable in this car. I thought Lexus were the best at that. Genesis knocked them absolutely squarely off the table as far as I'm concerned. This is a fabulous car, and it's a real shame more people aren't taking notice of it, because when you do, it's just one of the best electric cars out there. Right, I'll leave you to it. I've waffled on enough. Thanks for watching. Please make sure you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel, and obviously press the little bell button down below, because then you get notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. And you might want to watch that, because obviously they'll be introducing my new long-termer very soon to the channel. So if you're interested in these long-term tests that we do, make sure you subscribe for that reason. If you have enjoyed this week's video and me waffling, then please make sure you give it a little thumbs up, and don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the Genesis Electrified GV70. Do you have one? This is the interesting thing with these long-term tests. I'm interested to know what you think, if you're an owner of the car, or did you go and look at it and decide against it? Why did you decide against it? What did you buy instead of it? Have you been thinking about one as a second-hand buy? Let me know that. I'm really interested to know about your second-hand buyers. I'm really interested to know your thoughts on the car as well. Now remember as well, we're in social media, so if you're interested in your Instagram, your Facebook, your TikTok, your X and LinkedIn, we're there as well. So if you'd like to follow us over there, it certainly would be appreciated. And remember, if you are in the marketplace for an electric car, as I say, it might not be a new Genesis Electrified GV70. Maybe you're thinking about a used one and you want to know more about the car than I've just been speaking about today, then click on the little magnifying glass just at the top there, and you type in the name of the car you're interested in buying. And of course, if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 6 years or so, then we've put it through the road test review that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric car. And that one, folks, is the AutoEV one, I'll have you know. But there we go, yes. So, farewell to the Genesis. Not quite so farewell to Scotland. I think I'm going to go and have another blast down that road. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.